Last time, I broke down the major writing flaws that decreased Toradora's quality in the first 13 episodes. In this video, I will be looking at the second half of anime's most popular romance. Will the same problems appear? Will new problems appear? Will the story get better? Let's find out. But first, a small positive. Ending 2 is amazing, but the guitar intro for it in episode 18 makes it even better. Let's listen to it.
It wouldn't be right. I ruined everything. I don't deserve to go.
I'll wait for you anyway!
I don't care!
Back to the analysis. I believe that most tropes aren't inherently good or bad, and it's all about how they're executed. Romance anime misunderstandings make me question that. In theory, a misunderstanding can be a good source of conflict as long as it's logical. But in romance anime like Toradora, that isn't exactly true. They are used to spark conflict and extend the plot, but the issue is that they aren't logical. The misunderstandings happen because characters choose not to go with the obvious logical option because the writer seemingly doesn't know how to write logical misunderstandings. Characters choose not to explain themselves. They choose to do the dumbest thing. They choose to take the long road. A character being dense is one thing, but a character making bad decisions for the sake of extending a misunderstanding is painful to watch. Characters acting stupid appears again in the student council president arc. Kitamura has a meltdown about being president, but because he won't tell anyone why, including his friends, this drags out the arc and forces a plot of Taiga and Ryuji running for president to force Kitamura to run too. Like with Taiga's dad, characters who are supposed to be close are keeping key details from each other in order to pad out the story. And that's not even mentioning how childishly Kitamura behaves in this arc. His reason for having a meltdown was because his crush, Sumire, was moving to America before he could confess. I understand him losing his reason to run for council, but all he had to do was just not apply. Bleaching his hair and acting out was to get Sumire's attention, but it's such an uncharacteristically immature plan that obviously doesn't work. And now it's Sumire's turn. She rejects Kitamura, leading to a brawl with Taiga. Her reason is that if she told him how she felt, he would drop everything to go to America with her. Couldn't she have just explained it to him instead of rejecting him in front of everyone? When Kitamura hears this, does he drop everything to go to America? No, so she was wrong. The Christmas arc is about kushieda. Can you guess what drives the conflict of this arc? That's right, another misunderstanding. She avoids Ryuji and is punishing herself for some reason, and she won't explain why, even to her best friends. Ami is another problem. She continues her Sisyphean task of warning Ryuji about playing as Taiga's father, but never being specific enough so that he or the audience can understand. The only reason I can see why this would keep happening is to extend the drama and the story, but it's so lazy because Ami is illogically getting in her own way because the plot needs her to. This continues into the next arc. I remember finding the Santa part emotional the first time I watched it, but now that I'm wiser, it's so forced, like several events in the first half of the show. Taiga's all alone, so Ryuji comes to comfort her as Santa, but she was at the party before and chose to leave. No one forced her to leave and go home. She didn't have to go to Minori in person, but let's say that she did. What's stopping her from going back to the party after that? Why does she have to isolate herself and be lonely? She doesn't, which is why Ryuji's choice to comfort her and the whole scene is weaker than I remembered. Ryuji appealing to her childish belief in Santa still works though. Now we move to the field trip arc. Taiga realizing that Ryuji dating Kushieda would reduce the amount of time they can spend together in episode 19 was good. Her breakdown in front of Kushieda, leading to the latter rejecting Ryuji, was good. If the characters had addressed this ASAP, I would have no complaints, but of course the story had to drag it out. These two are arguably best friends, so discussing this shouldn't have been a problem. Later in episode 21, Kushieda says that she knows everything about Taiga, at least in the dub. That sounds like best friend status to me, but the story thrives on misunderstandings. In episode 20, Taiga explains the entire situation to Ryuji in detail. She says that Minori thinks Taiga needs Ryuji more, which is why she rejected Ryuji. Taiga's solution is to back away from Ryuji to prove Minori wrong, instead of going to her best friend and explaining this directly. If Taiga had done this didn't work, and then she came up with this plan, that would have been great, but once again, characters unnecessarily take the long road to extend the plot, which makes the story weaker. In the field trip arc, Ami continues to pad out the story by understanding a social problem, but never explaining it so that the others can understand, prolonging a misunderstanding. But I gotta hand it to her. Minori versus Ami was probably the best, most natural conflict this story had. Ami is an intentionally petty hypocrite who can't confess her feelings. She likes Ryuji, but Ryuji likes Kushieda, which makes her jealous, and the fact that Kushieda won't be straight with Ryuji angers her, so she picks a fight. There is no misunderstanding here. Ami knows exactly why Minori is rejecting Ryuji. The conflict makes sense for the type of character she is. She's always been petty, spiteful, and unable to confess. Her rage directed at her rival in love makes perfect sense. The only thing bad about this is that it leads to another forced plot point. The hair clip that Taiga gave to Minori for Ryuji falls off during the brawl, so Taiga goes off to look for it on her own and ends up in danger, forcing Ryuji to save her, leading to the convenient confession. The hair clip conveniently fell off during the fight. Taiga conveniently runs off to find it without telling anyone, or anyone seeing her. Ryuji is conveniently the one to find her. Ryuji conveniently lets her think that he's Kitamura, leading to a confession. If this was the first time this happened, I would be more lenient. But Toradora has notoriously and egregiously forced plot events too many times already. The music carries the hell out of this scene. The Valentine arc misunderstanding makes sense. Ryuji and Kitamura lie to Taiga to save everyone from an awkward situation. That's a logical choice. But then in episode 23, the characters collectively decide to stop all the misunderstandings. 3 of them force Taiga to reveal her true feelings, and Kushieda finally confesses to Ryuji. What suddenly caused everyone to be straightforward? It seems like the author decided she wanted to end the story, so she made the characters finally be direct with each other. I like the directness, but it annoys me that the author was always capable of writing them like this, and only chose to do so when she was done padding out the story with misunderstandings. In the last arc, Yasuko flipping out on Ryuji for getting a part-time job is more forced drama, but it's minor. The eloping plot is dumb, but at least it wasn't forced. I'm actually content with the rest of the story. That's the end of Toradora. The show has an unhealthy obsession with creating misunderstandings in order to create conflict events that pad out the story. It takes the anime romance trope of dumb misunderstandings and cranks it up to 11, spamming it like it's going out of style. It also has a bad habit of forcing events to happen through convenience to spice up the plot. Toradora and Golden Time were both written by Yuyuko Takemiya. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but Golden Time is far better than Toradora ever was. Golden Time has its fair share of issues, but at least every single problem ties back to the concept of Ghost Bonri. Before he arrived, the story was really good, and all the moments that don't include him are solid. I can't say the same for this show, which is riddled with problems from start to finish. So was Toradora ever good? Nah.